Today on Mina Studio, we look at Christmas in a small church. Hey everybody, welcome to Mina Studio. My name's Nathan. My tech director Ronald's right back there. And today we're going to talk about Christmas in small churches. Christmas in a small church can be tricky because Christmas is the time of big programs, right? And small churches just don't have a lot of resources to put on big programs. In fact, here's the truth. You cannot compete with the mega church down the street. You can't. You just can't. I mean, they've got like 100 people on stage playing instruments you've never heard of before. There's like a guy dressed as Jesus boxing a guy dressed as Santa or something. Everybody who walks in gets like a free iPad or $1,000 or something. I don't know. It gets pretty crazy, right? You can't compete with that, and you shouldn't compete with that. So if you've seen this channel before, you probably think I'm here to tell you that you don't need to put on a big Christmas program. Well, that's true. That's what I'm going to say. You don't. You can. I'm not saying it's inherently bad to do so, but what I'm trying to say is don't change who you are just because it's Christmas. You don't need to compete with the mega church down the street. One, because we shouldn't be competing with each other as churches at all. Two, because it's just a waste of resources to try. And three, because you have something unique to your own church. You just need to know what it is. Christmas time, it's kind of easy to lose focus on worship itself when planning worship. I know that sounds strange, but everything's different, we focus on Jesus in a different way. Like we focus on this little baby story Jesus instead of the Jesus we usually focus on. And the songs are different. We sing songs about historical events instead of like just straight up glorifying God kind of lyrics. And it's all different. And the biggest question to ask ourselves, and if you take one thing away from this video today, it's this. When you're planning your Christmas worship, with everything you plan, every little detail, you need to ask yourself, is this glorifying God or is this glorifying our church? Because often we lose the difference between the two during Christmas. We put on these big programs and all these things, and we forget that in the end it's glorifying us more than it's glorifying God. And we need to be careful that that doesn't happen in our worship. And I think one of the biggest ways to curb that is just to be yourself. As a church, be yourself. You don't have to pretend to be another church during Christmas, right? Just because it's Christmas, you don't have to look different than you normally do. And you don't have to be better than other churches at Christmas. I know it gets real attractional, and we're trying to bring in all these people who've never been to church before, and well, they might go to that church because they have a better program, but we don't want them to come to our church. We need to kind of get that out of our heads, right? We're not like competing for people. You don't have to be better than other churches. Just be who you are and just be the best version of that. I know that sounds very self-helpy, but I mean, it's true. Like if you're normally just kind of an acoustic church, you don't need to go out and hire like 20 musicians at Christmas and have a full band or a jazz ensemble or something. I mean, you don't need to do that. There's a lot of reasons you don't need to do that. One, because it's a lot of resources that your small church might have. Two, because it might just be out of competitiveness, trying to be better than all the other churches around you. And three, it's not who you are. Here's the problem with that. So say you have a big Christmas program and you have all these instruments and you have hired musicians and everything looks different, everything smells different, everything is just different. And you have this big Christmas program, and some of the people who are there decide to come back next week. What are they going to find? They're going to find a different church than the one they decided to come back to, right? When people decide to come back to your church next week, you want them to decide to do so because of who you are and what you preached, not how good you looked that week. You don't want it to be completely different. You don't want to fool them. You don't want to trick them into coming back to a church that doesn't really exist. All right, so say you're a small church, you're maybe just acoustic or a couple instruments. How do you do Christmas? Well, I have a couple ideas how to do that in a smaller kind of acoustic church without kind of betraying who you really are. So one idea that I've done several times and seen at a couple churches, it's really fun, is just kind of an acoustic pajama Christmas, right? Have your Christmas service or Christmas Eve service, whatever, and just invite everybody to come in their pajamas. They can bring blankets or pillows or whatever, and you do a Christmas service, nice, low-key, acoustic, tell the Christmas story, all of that stuff, right? It's just kind of a fun, different service, but it's not a big production. Pajama Christmas. I like it. Another idea could be to, instead of like hiring a bunch of random musicians, just find people in your congregation that would like to sing once. And, you know, you can have kind of a congregational choir. It doesn't have to be a trained choir with 4-part harmony and all that. Just find people who want to sing. And maybe some people who are too nervous to sing and never really, you know, be ready to be up on stage. Or maybe they're not that great of singers, so they don't, you know, can't sing by themselves. But, you know, you get 20 people in a group and kind of balances out, right? Everybody feels a little more comfortable singing and they can sing well and they can just, you know, be there, and you can still lead with the acoustic and have the lead vocal, and then they can just be confidently singing along with the song, almost like caroling in a way. You know, just kind of a simple, easy way for people to get involved, for the Christmas service to be a bit different, add a little spice to your service, have kind of a congregational choir that week. Another thing you could do, which I know a lot of churches already do, is kind of read the Christmas story throughout your service. Maybe in between songs, or you can have a long sit-down kind of reading of it. And there's a lot of fun ways to do this. You could have one person do it who's like a trained actor in your church. If you have somebody like that, that's always fun. Or you could find a family and have each one of the members of that family read a different part of the Christmas story throughout service. You could have people volunteer that are just sitting in the congregation, and then they stand up and read in the congregation as their time comes. There's a lot of great ways to read the Christmas story, and you can incorporate that idea into the other ideas as well. And of course, I love reading the Christmas story because, well, I love reading out of the Bible for worship. I mean, come on. And, you know, that's a great way to make sure the glory is going to God and not yourselves, because it's His word, it's His story, and it's what happened. Another fun idea, if you have a musician or band who's pretty versatile and good on their feet, you could have like a Christmas hymn sing, you know? Get maybe 15 or 20 Christmas hymns on a list, hand it out with a bulletin or whatever, and then people in the congregation can request Christmas songs to sing, and you can sing them just like kind of an old-fashioned hymn sing would, and you can incorporate, you know, scripture and other things into it, but make kind of a interactive, low-key acoustic hymn sing kind of thing for Christmas. Makes a great sense of community during that time, which is good, because during Christmas you're going to have a bunch of people who aren't normally there, right? And it can feel like you're at a kind of a different church and you don't know anybody, so to have people request their songs everywhere makes it feel, again, like a small church and a small community. So those are kind of a couple ways to work your Christmas service in a small church, you know. And I know some churches like to do other things, like I've seen big churches, like I said, handing out iPads during the service. I don't know if I've seen iPads, but I've seen things like that. Any new guest gets an iPad or something. Don't do that. You know, if you're a small church, don't do that. You probably can't even afford to buy iPads for your staff, so don't give it out to everybody who walks in the door. That would be a waste of resources. But you could do other fun things, like maybe you could have a fancy hot chocolate bar when people walk in the door. That's fun, not too expensive. You could have like an ugly Christmas sweater contest before and during the service. You know, invite everybody to wear their ugliest Christmas sweater. Everybody kind of judges before service starts, and then like when service starts during announcements or whatever, you can announce like who won the ugly Christmas sweater and have them bring them up and maybe give them some sort of fun prize or something. Another fun idea would be to get your kids involved, and this is a good way to do a giveaway without giving away iPads. You could have them make like handmade ornaments in children's church with like a scripture or a picture or something on it, and then have those same kids be the greeters during your Christmas service, and they can hand out like handmade ornaments to everybody who comes in the door. Another thing you could do is buy a bunch of plastic dinosaurs and hand them out to everyone. Sorry, Ronald wanted me to say that one. I don't know why. So there's lots of things you can do in your small church for Christmas. You can make it fun, you can make it different. Just don't turn into a different church. Be who you are. Don't try to compete with other churches. One, because you don't need to. We're churches. We're all together. And two, because you can't compete with the mega church down the street. You just can't. I'm sorry to be the one to tell you that, but you just can't. But you don't need to, because you, as a church, have your own unique identity. Christmas isn't a time to get rid of that unique identity. It's a time to display it. You might have lots of people that aren't normally there, and that's a great opportunity to show them who you are. Don't show them some church that only exists on Christmas and Easter. Show them who you really are. Thank you so much for watching. I hope all of these ideas were helpful for you. If they were, please hit that subscribe button to see more videos just like this, and I will see you back here next week, post-Christmas.